This is No Hipsters Pod.
The jury in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:44 p.m. Signed, juror foreperson, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 2. We, the jury in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:45 p.m. Signed by jury foreperson, juror number 19. Same caption, verdict count 3. We, the jury in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence, creating an unreasonable risk, find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021 at 1:45 p.m.
Episode 39, No Hipsters Pod. It's your boy Ronte, the founder of NoHipstersLaw.com. And this week, our co-host is my dear friend and the founder of She Leads Africa, Yasmin Belo-Osagie. Yasmin, say
yes. Hi, Ronte. I'm so excited to be on here. You know, like, because it was such a joy to find out that you're like a secretly shady person as well.
Really?
And so when I found it, it was such a bonding moment because everything I knew of you was just like nice, sweet, polite Ronte. And I was like, oh, you got a little like shady, sassy side to you. And I was like, I love it. So I'm super excited to be on here. I love everything you do.
Thank you.
Very, very excited.
It's funny. It's funny because you know me for over 20 years now. And a lot of people who've known me for a long time don't really know that I have this other side because I think I keep it kind of hitting a little bit. But yes, this is me.
You definitely do. And I think it happens. I actually think it happens more naturally with people who you've known for a long time because the problem is we meet each other when we're like 15, 12, 14. And in our minds, the person like freezes as that person who they were at that age.
True.
Which doesn't like make any sense because obviously 20 years have gone past, you've evolved, you've like developed and all these things. But in all our minds, I think we're frozen at like the age and the personality when we first like met each other. So it's
absolutely,
always good to, like, re-meet friends.
Yeah, it's great. And so talk a little bit about She Leads Africa.
Sure. So She Leads Africa is a platform that's designed to help young African women achieve their professional and entrepreneurial goals. If I put it down to what it is that I really care about, or that we really care about She Leads Africa, is like we want to help young African women just like make more money is what it all comes down to. And so, we're a content company where we focus a lot on like business advice, career advice, financial literacy. We also try to throw in stuff around like, inspiration, motivation, because all of that is really, really important when you're trying to get your coin. And we try to do all of that in a way that's like fun and interesting. So the brand voice that we've adopted tends to feel very millennial, very of our generation, using a lot of pop culture references. And that's just generally because like I like to have fun. So it's like I wanted to build a brand that had a very like fun personality. So that's what we do.
And that you did. And it's funny, with the pandemic, what are our plans for the Slave Festival? I don't know I think you have it mid-year every year. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's all been put on hold. So it's crazy because Slave Festival, started off in Lagos 2-3 years ago. The last one we had in Lagos was 2019. That was about like 4,000 people.
Oh, wow.
And so we were so pumped for 2020. We were like, yeah, we'll get to 5,000-6,000. We actually also took to the first time at the beginning of 2020 to Joburg. And so it was like, great, we're going to have like the one in Joburg will always be in March. The one in Lagos will always be like in October. And then Corona happened. And we just about managed to get the Joburg one done. Literally, South Africa closed down the weekend exactly after. Like, the weekend we had Slave Festival in Joburg was when they got their first coronavirus case in South Africa.
Wow.
And then the next week, the country had completely shut down. So we don't know when we're going to do anything like that again, if I'm going to be honest. Like, who knows when you're going to start having thousands of people congregating.
Right.
I think it'll be different in the States where they'll be able to vaccinate people, like, faster. But, like, here, I'm in Nigeria. Like, I don't know when that's going to happen. We don't know when the vaccine is actually going to be like really readily available here and when we'll get the virus under control. So I'm not sure. But for us, one of the big things that we've been focusing on is just like beefing up our technology offering.
Right.
And so one of the things that we're going to be doing this year is we're releasing our first app.
Nice.
Because one of the things that we is basically start building a financial services platform for women.
Okay.
So the app initially is going to start with being able to kind of save and invest on their app. It's obviously also going to have a really strong content bend, stuff around like financial literacy, because, that's kind of where we come from.
Right.
But long term, we're hoping that, we'll also be able to offer women, purpose fit credit and also insurance through the platform. So, fingers crossed all goes well. But,
Yes.
living in this Buhari's hard Nigeria, who knows what's going to happen, Ron Steph? Who knows?
Who knows? Let's talk about the Derek Chauvin case. So since the last episode, he's been found guilty on all counts, and he's going to go to jail for up to 40 years. He'll be sentenced in a few weeks, I believe. And so there was a collective sigh of relief, which is kind of sad because in my mind, the video evidence was irrefutable, and there was no way he was going to be found not guilty. But knowing the reality of America and knowing that Eric Garner's killer is walking free and so many others are walking free, I get it. So what were your thoughts when that happened?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was wild, right? Like, because it just first took you back. I didn't watch the trial at all. Mm-hmm. It was... I really couldn't engage. I have... I don't know. For me, last year was a very, very overwhelming as it pertains to like activism on social media.
Yes.
Because we started off with, if you're Black, and especially if you're Black and Nigerian, it was overwhelming. We started off with Corona and everyone's freaking out. What is this thing going on? Like, oh my God, are we all going to die? We're not going to die. What's going on? All of that. So that was kind of the first, quarter. Then Q2, you hit us with Eric Garner and having, oh my gosh, I'm even blanking.
George Floyd.
You hit us with George Floyd. I'm mixing it all up. You hit us with George Floyd, which was, I mean, I remember when I first saw the video, I didn't really know what was, you didn't really know what was going on.
Right.
You're like halfway through and you're like, wait, what the hell is going on? It was
exactly. It's wild.
Traumatic, right? So traumatic. Then the whole like social media outpouring of it, being so frustrated, helpless. Then there was all of that. Then and then constantly, whenever you engage with social media, like scared, seeing people fight about it, racism, all of that. Okay. Then we got hit Q3, and then sorry, let's not lie. Then all through Q3, we were also dealing with Trump, lead up to the elections. Kids in cages, like all of that intensity. Then Q3, Q4, if you were Nigerian, you were hit with the NSAS protests, military killing people in Nigeria, like all of that. You were hit with that. You were hit with like all the election like build up as well. Right. And so I found it to be a really overwhelming like experience. And so one of the things that I did like at the beginning of this year was I completely refreshed, because I find Twitter is where I find it to be like most like intense. I don't know. Instagram is just like, I feel like people there are just like, running around with like flowers in their hair, but with Twitter, with Twitter, it's like so intense. So one of the things that I did was I had to kind of unfollow like all activists. And I feel like the activists I most followed tended to be like women in Nigeria, or like, anything with women's rights, anything with Black people, obviously like Nigeria, unfollowed everyone. And it's like, I kept you on, obviously,
Oh, nice.
I had to. So you are literally like my only link to like pop culture stuff right now on
fantastic.
Twitter. Everything else I follow is like just super bland. It's like business analysis, technology, like really, really bland. So like you literally are my news right now.
I love it.
And so like I wasn't following the trial at all. I didn't want to watch it. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to opine on it. I was just like, look, I need to emotionally disconnect, because like who knows what's going to happen? Because that is just the story of America. They would have found some funky thing, even with the coroner's report, like it just fit. They were it was being built up to like screw us over yet again. And when I found it, I was happily surprised. Obviously, we want him to go to jail, but it still was kind of like, okay, so it's not awful, but I'm still at a zero. It's like I wasn't happy. I was like not sad. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right, I get it.
Because like, really, we just know that the only reason why he happened to get convicted was because this was so unbelievably egregious.
Right.
Right? it was like we saw it all. There was all this hype around it, but it's like, how many other deaths, like how many other opportunities are there going to be for us to see something that is like so black and white that like law enforcement can't try to like keep with like they're running away, they're doing this, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't know, that made it like really, really frustrating. So I don't know, I had to really check out of it emotionally, but cool that it happened to him. I mean, he's a fucking dick, so you know,
Absolutely.
good luck to him.
Absolutely.
Good luck to him in jail.
Right.
But still, like, it's just not good enough, right?
It isn't, because I mean, people are saying it's justice, and I guess in some sense it is, but I think real justice would be that not even happening at all. It would be a police officer knowing that you can't just put your knee on someone's neck for 9 minutes. You know, it would be a system that understands that you shouldn't be punishing people so harshly for something as minor as a counterfeit bill, $20 bill, which they still haven't even confirmed that he had a counterfeit. So basically, he was killed for nothing, as far as I know. So it's sad. I mean, I struggle with calling it justice. I will say that it's a momentary redemption of the justice system, but I will say it is justice.
I was curious as to whether you had engaged at all with these types of like defund the police, like anti-policing type movements, like maybe we shouldn't have police. Like, how do you think about that?
So I've talked about this many times on the podcast. I think I even talked about it on the last episode. And my position is, I think a lot of it is highly theoretical. I don't know that anyone has put it into practice. And I think that a lot of people on the internet have a habit of getting into theory and not really thinking about how it would work. I also think that the phrase defund the police is a reckless combination of words. And I think it's too easily it's too easy to manipulate, right? So I can make that mean whatever I want to my audience. And oftentimes it's used interchangeably with abolish the police, which in my mind is something else entirely, right? But some people, when they say defund, they mean abolish. And while others say defund, they mean reform so that you're spending more on other services that help curb crime more effectively. And so I do not like all of that phrasing at all, because it's too messy, it's too shoddy, and can be used to do whatever by anyone who has bad intentions. And so I do think that we should be spending more on social services, more like, I mean, I don't think a person with a gun should be responding to a mental health episode, right? I don't think, so many of these things are not really, it's like a police officer is useless in so many of the things that they respond to, right? Yeah. And I think that's my position. Now, I actually go a step further, and I say that we really need to focus on gun control. And the reason why I always bring that up in conversations about police is that it will be much easier to make an argument that police officers shouldn't have guns if there is an understanding that not every citizen has one, right?
Yeah.
So if in a country where anyone could own a gun, then yes, if I'm reaching for my wallet or for my cell phone, he can claim that he was reasonably scared that I was reaching for a gun. Yasmin, I know you've lived in the UK for a long time, so you could probably attest to the fact that many police officers there don't even have guns, right? And one of the reasons for that is that I don't think it's easy to get a gun in the UK, at least not as easy as it is in America. I don't know exactly what the gun laws are, but I know it's a lot harder. But over here, because the average American, listen, there was this hidden camera situation I saw on the internet the other day where a 13-year-old went to buy a gun. And before he bought the gun, he tried to get a cigarette. He was not allowed. He tried to get a tattoo. He was not allowed. He tried to get alcohol. He was not allowed. And then he walked into a gun store and bought a gun, right? So that is how easy it is to get a gun in America. And so if you have all these people with guns, there's just no argument to make where it will make sense for a police officer to not have a gun. And so if they see you reaching for your wallet or for your cell phone, they could reasonably or semi-reasonably assume that you're going for a gun. And because this is a racist country, they're more expectant of a weapon when it's a black person going to his jacket for his wallet or, his phone or whatever. A few years ago, when Philando Castile was killed, he had been asked for his ID. And as he reaches for the ID he was asked for, he gets shot by the police officer. So that's why I think we need to get to a place where just there are just not so many guns everywhere. Because if there are fewer guns, then we can also start to argue that police officers don't need guns. So that's where I stand with it. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, I agree with so much I've said. I don't know. The challenge around like the phrasing of defund the police, but a part of me is also kind of feels like, look, any phrase they come up with, I feel like the people who don't want to defund the police will find a way to make it worse. If you say like transfer some of the money or support the police, like they'll always find a way. I don't know. There's a part of me where it's like, look, I just feel like they'll always find a way to like make it sound worse than it is.
Right.
I also feel like part of the issue is that there is very little consensus on what to do. So any phrase is going to mean like multiple things to multiple people. This is all just to say, like, I never had the answer. I literally just like to hear other people's like opinions.
Right.
But
okay.
Other than that, no, I was going to say another thing that I struggle with on the Derek Chauvin case is a part of me is excited for him to go to jail because jails in America are really terrible and I kind of want him to have a terrible time. But then a part of me is like, wow, that's really terrible. Like, I know, right? America are so terrible. You know what I mean? And so I was kind of stuck between when people do bad things like he's done, we almost kind of want them to like suffer. And
right.
I was kind of like torn as to like, but I wonder whether or not, because it's the same jail that he's going to is the same jail that like mainly like black men get thrown into and are having to suffer like the consequences. Do you see what I mean? So that was another thing that I was thinking with, and that was like wrestling on my heart a little bit. Yeah, you know?
Right. I hear you. So first of all, I want to even just go back to address the comment about how like whatever phrase we use will be manipulated. I understand that that's true, but I don't think we should be doing the heavy lifting for our opponents.
Yes, I don't make it so easy, guys.
Right. Like don't make it so easy. Make it hard. Make the phrase so difficult to manipulate that they sound crazy when they try. So that's my position. And then on Derek Chauvin going to prison, first of all, I hate to say this, but I actually laugh when Nigerians talk about American prisons because you and I know that Nigerian prisons
are probably worse.
are 10 times worse, and half of those people are in there for crimes they didn't commit. But that's a whole other conversation. But with Derek Chauvin, it's like, listen, I'm not about to cry about the conditions in his case, but I do know what you mean.
And I mean, I think that what I find really interesting, because you always hear about like Scandinavia, where they have these like prisons that like just tend to be like much nicer and they have like much like lower recidivism rates.
Yeah.
And it just makes me realize that there is a thing as to like a society as to like what you really think of as the role of prison. And I think that like for a lot of people, it's to punish people. And so that's why no one cares if it's gross, because it's like, well, you should be suffering.
Right.
As opposed to people saying, no, part of what it is that we're doing with prisons is removing people from society so that we can re-educate them to society. And I think that like when you take that as what you see as the role as prison, the system you create is going to be different. But then it's always really, really difficult because a lot of the times people who go to prison have done bad things. So it's like, well, this person did a bad thing and I should now give them a warm bed to sleep at night.
Before you can even get to prison conversation, we really have to get to what we're locking people up for in the first place. And that's the first battle, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I kind of just ask, is there something in the water at Harvard? Because how come every single person I've met who's gone there comes out like as this big abolitionist? Like, what's happening over there?
HLS, no. But HLS in general is like a really like, it's overall quite like a left-wing school.
Every single person I know when there is like, oh, we should end all of this. And you are apparently no different.
I don't know if I'm like end all police, but I definitely do feel like their scope should be reduced.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's like a lot more money just be put into other things like education and like better housing. I feel like there hasn't been enough thinking as to like what are the reasons why people like. Of course, there are some people in the world who are genuine like sociopaths and will like kill, rape, murder, whatever. There are those types of people, but my gut is that like that is like a much smaller percentage of the prison society than like
absolutely
you'd actually like to think. And so for me, it's like, well, let's actually try to better understand how many of the people in this world are like actually really evil, and like how many people was it just like bad situation that like put you in this place. And so for me, it's like, well, if that is true, then we would actually just be in a better position if we could like move some of the money from policing and like into like more useful things.
Right.
I also just have a general concern as to like this idea that like if you have a violent society, if you have violence occurring, introducing more violence is going to help the problem. I just find that it very rarely, like, I don't know, seems to work. Yeah. I don't know.
I get it. And it's funny. You're absolutely right about like people's conditions leading them into a life of crime. And another thing people don't talk about is how like most of the people in like prison actually have one mental disorder or the other.
Yeah.
So that's a part that we're not talking about enough.
That's the whole other thing. That's the whole, like, you really do touch on access to like mental health care and like those types of things. It's crazy,
unfortunate.
You know?
Yeah.
It's super unfortunate.
So let's change gears a bit and talk about Ma'Khia Bryant. She is a 16-year-old girl who was killed by police in Columbus, Ohio, within minutes of the Derek Chauvin verdict being read. And I think it kind of just symbolizes, life in America for Black people. How you don't really get that much of a moment
you didn't even get a second to breathe, literally.
No, honestly. And so this one is quite unique. I've heard a considerable amount of Black people say that her killing was just. So Ma'Khia Bryant, who is, like I said, 16 years old, had called the police because two older girls who I guess had lived in her house. So she was in foster care. So two older girls who I guess were 20 and 22 were in the house and were starting a fight with her. And so she's fighting back and she's calling the police. So as the police arrives, she pushes one of them, and then this adult man who's with her, who seems to be on her side, kicks the one who gets pushed on the floor in her head, and then she charges at the other one, and she has a knife in her hand. Now, from my vantage point, that looked like a table knife, but I mean, apparently it was an actual, kitchen knife. And so she was about to stab this other girl, and then the police officer shoots her 4 times. Now, they keep saying, the reports say, shot her in the chest. He shot her in the back. So she was backing him and he shoots her 4 times. So in my mind, there's no, I think there's so many levels before shooting 4 times. I think if a person is with a knife, there's just so many things you can do before you shoot them. Like and the person's not charging at you with a knife, it's charging at someone else. So you could have held her, tried to tackle her or whatever. But I've seen so many Black people, unfortunately, mostly Black men, saying that she deserved to be shot. What is your opinion on this case?
But, okay, all right. So let me just really think and say, why do I think that someone deserves... Okay, first of all, I don't think that anyone... Unless I'm trying to think, why do I really think that people deserve to...
So the argument is that she was about to take a life, so she should have been... So if she went through what she was about to do, that other girl could have died. And I actually have a police officer friend, and he says, okay, what would you be saying this if the lady who was about to be stabbed was your sister or your mother? And that did get me to thinking, but I just don't know that I still think that she deserved to be shot. And definitely not 4 times.
No, yeah, because my thing, I understand that you need to preserve life, but what I also don't get is, why don't they ever shoot them in the leg?
Right.
Did anyone have they ever given us? Because my point is that, okay, are police well trained enough that they can decide what body is, or is it I don't why is there never any nuance?
Well, a police officer I know said, and I quote, "We shoot to kill," and
I think that's the whole problem with the training, isn't it?
Right, and he goes, and he says that we always go for the torso because if you shoot an arm or a leg, it can go through and hit the person on the other side of the person or whatever. So he says that it's just most times you'll be shot in the torso. And it's really just kind of like a reflex. If they're good trying to shoot you, they're shooting in the chest, in the back, or whatever. So, I mean, I don't agree with it. I would have shot her in the leg too, if at all. But that's kind of where we are. So it's unfortunate. And people are using the fact that she was big as like, yeah, I mean, she's a big girl. Like, what were they going to do? Blah, blah, blah. How does he tackle someone that big? I'm like,
yeah, because was he close enough to try and tackle her, like disarm her in another way?
He was definitely, even if she got like one stab in, he was close enough to at least prevent a second stab, right? So,
and he couldn't. Yeah, because for me, I'm like, well, one, okay, we have the shoot in the leg. We have they should be trained to be able to take people down. Don't they have tasers as well? You know, maybe you could have done the light tase.
Right.
So I don't know. It just kind of feels like, did it have to go from 0 to 100 that quick?
Right.
I mean, it's always really hard to like argue these things, especially when the police are like, well, we have to shoot to kill. Because it's like, well, I guess I don't know how to use guns. So I don't know whether it's like asking someone to shoot someone in the leg or even the nyash, be like, you shot her in the butt. I don't know if that's like asking a lot or like it's actually like no, because you know how sometimes people give like bullshit excuses when they just don't. They're just like, look, it's just a bit too complicated to train people to shoot well, so we're going to. But like, I just don't understand like why you couldn't do.
Yeah,
why
I think. Yeah, I think tasing is
it was 4 times as well.
4 times, 4 shots.
Yeah, that sounds weird. And I feel like the people who would have the expertise to tell us that, like, no, in actual fact, I can tell you, given that I'm someone who like regularly uses a gun, that there's a different way this could be approached. Most of them would be in the police and they'll, you know, not tell the truth.
Right. Unfortunately. So, yeah, it's really sad because I've seen too many people try to like make sense of it. And I'm not trying to say that the girl was a saint by any means, but, you know, I feel like something else could have been done. And now also it's coming out that she had called the police weeks prior for another incident. So this was a girl who was clearly going through a lot in foster care. And as far as I'm concerned, this is someone who has been neglected by the system, you know? So neglected and ultimately killed by the system. So it's very, very sad. And I think the officer is going to go free because clearly no one's sounding like they think he did anything wrong. Let's change gears to something less serious, but still pertinent in my opinion.
Yeah.
So stylist Wayne Scott Lucas, who was behind the costumes in the infamous Super Bowl performance of 2004, Super Bowl 38, with Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson, revealed a few weeks ago that Nipplegate, the whole like reveal, was not a wardrobe malfunction. Now, if you're anything like me, you were probably like, duh, because it looked entirely staged. Like, you know, why would she have that, like, you know?
Why would she thank you. Like, why would her tit have
the nipple,
like, it wasn't like a nipple piercing. It was like...
It's like an ornament.
I don't know what to call it. It was like... it was like boob jewelry. It was weird. Okay,
yeah, exactly.
Continue.
So why would she have that if it wasn't planned? So I've always known it was planned, but whatever, right? But he said that it was Justin Timberlake's idea. So I don't know if you remember in 2003 at the VMAs, Britney Spears, yes,
and Madonna made out.
Exactly. Britney Spears and Madonna made out. And so it was a whole thing, and he was in the audience that day. So basically he wanted to one-up Britney by having his own situation, but this time with Janet Jackson. And so the initial plan was for her to have a dress on, and at the end of the show, he goes, "I'll have you naked" by the end of the song, and then he steps on the dress and reveals her thong. And then they scrapped that idea and went with the boob instead. And so this whole thing happens, and he's denying the whole thing. And then he goes to apologize to Les Moonves, who was the president of Viacom, who owns, MTV, CBS.
Yeah, like a little bitch.
Exactly. And it's funny, the whole time people were like we were saying, like, why didn't she apologize as well? But she made this public apology, but never made a personal apology to Les. And that makes even more sense now because it wasn't her idea. Right? It was her boob, of course, but it wasn't her idea. And whatever the case, she wasn't like, she was a grown woman. Like, she's already like apologized to the public. Like, why do you need me to cry?
Yeah, but like, why, who is Les? Like, who is this? Why does everyone need to be like crying?
Well,
anyway. No, my point is, I believe he's now been proven to be a sexual assaulter anyway. So,
exactly.
Well, fucker.
Right. I mean, to answer your question, Les Moonves is an extremely powerful man who effectively ended Janet Jackson's career. So that would be the answer to your question. That's who he is. So who's powerful enough to end an icon's career just because he wants to.
Yeah, I mean,
yes.
He's still famous.
she's still famous, but she hasn't been able to have like a hit. Like she's had like, number one albums, but that's like after years of like not even getting any airplay on any Viacom owned radio stations. MTV wasn't playing her as much. BET could only play her because how do you not play Janet Jackson on a black entertainment network? But she was not, like, she was shut out of the industry. And even like 5 years after the fact, when she was trying to look for a book deal for her memoir, and she got it through Simon and Schuster, which is owned by Viacom, apparently he was upset that that even happened. So he basically she was over it. So people think, oh yeah, she fell off, blah. No, she didn't fall off. She just wasn't getting any play on like a third of the music stations in the country. So that's what happens to Janet Jackson. So thoughts.
Okay.
Thoughts on the stunt.
On this. Okay. Let me go. Okay, thoughts on this. All right. First of all, I really think it's important that I just out Justin Timberlake being a dick. And it actually has nothing to do with this particular thing. I really never liked Justin. Why? Because Justin Timberlake basically is one of those people who like use black culture to get famous and never really speaks on black people issues. I've never liked that about him. And so from jump, I've always distrusted him. When he broke out of NSYNC and he was hanging out with all them Pharrell and the Clips and he was giving us all these R&B, all of that nonsense, he was down with black people. When it now comes to like black people getting shot, any of that, Justin Timberlake was nowhere to be found, nowhere to be discussed. I mean, you're from Tennessee, right? Like, I think there's racism there. You should surely have had some stuff to say about it. So I've never really liked Justin Timberlake for that particular issue, especially because it's like, look, you were imbibed in black culture. Like, you really, really used it to like clean off your whole like clean boy like pop image. And so I've never liked him. Okay. Now, with the Janet Jackson issue, it was obvious that it must have been planned. Yeah. But I also thought it was so stupid that it would be planned that I didn't really digest that it was planned. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So when this thing came out, the first thing that I think that they're both dumb. I thought that it was a really, even if he suggested it, that she too, like a fucking mug, was like, yeah, sounds like a good idea, is crazy to me. It didn't make any sense. It was so stupid. I mean, it's the Super Bowl and you wanted to it was weird. It was just weird. It was really, really dumb. Okay. So that's that on that. Obviously, with what Justin Timberlake like done and like him not really like coming out for her and like, pushing a little bit more. I mean, that goes without saying, because at the end of the day, if it was his idea, he should have been like, look, at the end of the day, it was my idea. Like, I feel really bad. I talked Janet Jackson into it. But at the same time with Janet Jackson, I'm also like, look, men come up with dumb ideas all the time, babe. You too. But you two weren't you like, you also, even being older, didn't you have the intelligence to be like, yeah, maybe this doesn't make sense? Because at the end of the day, what makes it even dumber is that, I mean, it was helping his career a lot, but I mean, I don't know what it was doing to hers. Janet was greasy. Janet didn't really need this. Right. So I really don't understand like why she allowed herself to be like roped into this. And the Les Moonves guy is like blackballing people because he wanted her to like personally like apologize and all of those sorts of things. Obviously, now that I know he also like doesn't like women, that makes it even lamer. But I also feel like Janet isn't fully innocent in all of this because like it was a really stupid idea and it was really inappropriate. It's the Super Bowl. Because the MTV Music Award is one thing because it's a music show, right? But the Super Bowl is like watched by like
100 million people. Yeah.
No, it's not just about the number of people who is watched by. It's about the type of people. The Super Bowl is like the middle of the moms of America. We love the Super Bowl. Like, that's the demographic. That's why, think about it. Of all the sports, right, that really vexed on this whole Black Lives Matter thing, who was it that was the worst?
The football fans. Yeah.
Football is like the most conservative, like American, Republican core audience. So I cannot understand. I feel like MTV Awards, because everyone is like a bit weirder, but I cannot understand how no one was like, yeah, no, this doesn't make sense. So weirdly enough, before this, I was like, Justin is so stupid. I actually never even really thought about Janet in all of it. But when I heard that it was his, like, when this thing came out and it was confirmed that, look, this actually definitely was planned. I still think Justin Timberlake is stupid, which I thought before for multiple reasons. But I'm also like, but Janet, babes, like, how into this? Like,
it was
why like a 20-year-old?
Right, because he was definitely like, he was 23 and she was what, 30, 37 at the time. It was crazy. So, I mean, she definitely played herself by putting herself in that position. But I can't, like, my heart can't sleep knowing that her career suffered the way it did. And then Justin went on to become this mini icon in his own right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, yeah, but I mean, and I agree. It's not fair that she got worse than him, but well, it's not like really like a but it's like, I don't know. If I was in her position, and I don't know, would I have apologized to the Les guy? To be honest, maybe.
Yeah, honestly,
because I'm like, but babes, like, you also did something wrong because you agreed to it. It might, like, okay, look, if we go and rob a bank together, Ronta.
Yeah.
Even if it was my idea, you're still going to jail with me now. It's not going to be like, it's not like you're going to get to the court and be like, oh, it wasn't really my idea. I was just, they're like, you could have said no. You went along with it.
Right,
so,
right.
You know, you are kind of involved a little bit.
Yeah.
I didn't want her to have to, like, I think that Les Mover is a dick. You should never go so hard against someone for something like that. It's really, really petty. And you can obviously see the reason why he did it now. He doesn't respect women. And he was, like, particularly peeved that, like, you know, women didn't want to come and, like, kiss his ring. But at the same time, like, I also think that, like, her getting involved with this, like, it's like, babe, at your age, you should know better. It's their channel. It was really, like, you know, come on.
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
My actual mind has turned a little bit more on it now. I'm also now like, Janet, babe, nah.
Understood.
It's like she just never apologized, or she said sorry, but he wanted her to grovel. You know, she was like, hey, I understand it was inappropriate. My bad.
Right. He needed the groveling. So Yashar Ali had made a report about this like a year or two ago. And he said after the whole thing happened, Janet did her tearful public statement. Justin went to Les Moonves' office and had like a whole thing where he's like, you know, apologizing in person, allegedly cried in his office. And Janet never did the same. So I think he felt, oh, well, who do you think you are? You think you're Janet? Okay, well, I'm Les. So look at this. That's what that was.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because like to me, I'm like, look, the public don't matter. You know, this is one of the things that it's like, this is taking away from, I'm not talking about whether or not this is right or this is wrong. I'm just talking about like real politics. Right. At the end of the day, apologize, Justin, in a way, look, apologizing to the public versus getting Les to the Moonves guy, the perv, to forgive you. Actually, your time was actually probably better spent like speaking to him because the public are really fickle. You see, when Les Moonves blocked you, the public is not like they were going around like trying to beg for your CDs. And even now that people are like, oh my God, what happened to Janet? Are they really buying her music like that?
First of all, it's too late. I mean, at this point, it's almost 2 decades after the fact. So whatever redemption that can happen is too late. So Les won, if we're being honest. So it's unfortunate, but that's what happened. Winners and losers. Yasmin, who are your winners and losers for the week?
Well, the winners this week will probably be all the rich tech people.
Oh, okay.
Right. I feel like the winners of this whole COVID year has basically been like any like technology tycoon where like all their stocks that, you know, they've added how much wealth to like their life and it just continues to go up whilst the rest of us languish. So I don't know if they're the winners of this week or they've just been the consistent winners of this like year, but it's like in a year where everything has been thrown into disarray. They've been sitting pretty sweet, and it's going to continue to get better for them, to be perfectly honest.
Unfortunate.
Strong winners. Losers, it's going to be, I mean, I feel like we spoke about Derek Chauvin this much, so he's a big loser. And I'm happy that he'll be going away for a really long time.
Same. All right, so my winner, and this was a bit of a struggle, I guess I'm going to say like TikTok creators, because honestly, all these memes and challenges have been bringing me so much joy recently. So whether it's the Hope Challenge or the I Remember When Challenge, I've been cracking up. So those are my winners for this week. My losers will be the rapper Blueface, who has women on his OnlyFans show tattooing his name all over their bodies.
Oh my God.
As like a challenge. And then my other loser, of course, would be Justin Timberlake, who is just, consistent in his whackness. And then my third loser would be the journalist who mistook Daniel Kaluuya for Leslie Odom and then tried to save it. And was like, oh no, I didn't know who it was. But yeah, she definitely thought it was someone else. She asked him about One Night in Miami, which is the movie he directed.
Oh, no.
It was the worst. But yeah, so that happened. So yeah, that would be my final loser. So yeah, that's the show. Yasmin, thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you come back. And before we leave, let the people know where they can find you and She Leads Africa on social media.
Thank you. So She Leads Africa is at She Leads Africa on all social media platforms. And for myself, I am mainly on Instagram, and you can find me at Yaz_BO.
Okay. Love it. Episode 39, No Hipsters Pod. Talk to you next time. Bye.